If you're thinking about investing in Roundhill's WPAY, the Weekly Pay ETF, then it's important to understand how it works, what are the mechanics behind it. Because on the surface, WPAY seems like a really good opportunity. It's got a 50% distribution yield, it's paying weekly, and so far, although it's only been around for a few weeks, it's up 3.56%, and it's also paid some large distributions. So I personally am considering investing in WPAY, but I want to understand how it works, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. And WPAY is the Roundhill Weekly Pay Universe ETF. So all the single stock Weekly Pay ETFs get rolled up into WPAY. So if I want to understand WPAY, I've got to look under the hood of the individual holdings. And in this video, we're going to do just that with COIW, which is their Coinbase Weekly Pay ETF. And we're going to try to answer 17 questions about Roundhill's Coinbase Weekly Pay ETF. But before we do, I want to go over just a few basic rules. So number one, I have some disclosures here that I need to share. One is I do not hold any Coinbase stock. I do not hold any Roundhill products, but I am considering purchasing WPAY. I do have a Coinbase account, and this is not an endorsement or recommendation to purchase Roundhill products or Coinbase stock. Those are my disclosures. And I looked at the Roundhill prospectus, and they have this important disclosure as well, which is that investors who don't understand a fund strategy and the returns that it seeks to provide, or do not intend to actively monitor and manage their investments in the fund, should not invest in the fund. So for those who don't know, a real quick introduction to Coinbase Weekly Pay ETF from Roundhill. This is what they're trying to do. It's designed for investors seeking a combination of income and growth, and they want to provide weekly distributions and the calendar week return for the underlying holding, in this case Coinbase, times 1.2. So let's break that down because there are two distinct things they're trying to do. One is provide distributions, and two is provide price appreciation or paper gains. The paper gains should be 1.2 times what Coinbase returns in a week. The distribution is totally separate from that. So if Coinbase went up, let's say $10 in 1 week, they want the COIW ETF to go up 1.2 times that, or $12. That doesn't mean they're going to pay you a $12 distribution. That distribution is separate from what they're trying to do with the return and the leverage. And here is the part of the prospectus that goes over that, where it says, in addition to providing 1.2 times or 120% exposure to the total return of Coinbase shares over a week, the fund will make weekly distributions. And it says the week's distributions is based upon a formula that incorporates a number of dynamic market inputs, including the recent total return of shares and implied volatility of Coinbase shares. So again, the return is going to be different from the distribution. So let's first take a look at what is the Roundhill yield so far. So let's assume that we invested in COIW, the Roundhill Coinbase product, at the very beginning, at its launch. And let's check the price of that. So this is Yahoo Finance, and we're going back all the way to the very beginning, which was around February 19th, 2025. And we'll just take the closing price of $48.85. Okay, I'm going to write that down here, $48.85. And I'm going to sum up from this table all the distributions that it's paid so far. So I'm going to do equals sum of this, close that parenthesis, and then divide it by 48.85. Convert that to a percentage, 36% so far. All right, what has the Roundhill price return been since inception? So to answer that, I'm going to go to TradingView, and I'm going to look at all time, and I'm going to convert this to percentage and see that COIW is down 22.22%. So minus 22.22% there. All right. Now, what is Roundhill's total return since inception? So this would be including the dividends. And we can do this also on TradingView, where we go, again, convert to percent, and we'll make sure it's all time, and we will adjust for dividends, and we see that is up 15.87%. So let's make sure that's a percentage, and 15.87%. All right. What is Coinbase's total return since Roundhill's inception? So that's also easy to do in TradingView. We just add Coinbase here. Okay, and we see, if we go all time, because COIW is our reference asset in TradingView, so it starts at the beginning, Coinbase total return 20.85%. So we'll enter 20.85% for Coinbase. So the big question is, have they done what they want to do? Now, there's also a disclaimer here. There's no guarantee that the fund will successfully provide returns that correspond to 1.2 times the calendar week total return of common shares of coin. So have they got that return? Well, the answer is clearly no, they have not. Okay, so a few things going on in this table. Number one, I've got the declaration date, which is typically a Friday or the end of the market trading week. I've got the beginning of the market trading week, so when they would start their calculation. So basically I'm saying at the close of the trading on September 19th, which was a Friday, this was the price, $312.59. And then at the close of the market on Friday, September 26th, the price was $342.46. So I'm just going to hide these columns so it's not as busy. But that's basically what's going on here is I've got the prices there and I've done a return calculation. So I'm going to hide that. And I've got the tickers here, which were used in the formulas to reference it, COIN and COIW, the Roundhill one. Okay. And I did the same thing. I pulled COIW's start of the week price, referencing the start of the week, and I pulled COIW's end of the week price, referencing the end of the week. So also going to hide those just so that this table is a little bit less busy. We'll move our logo there. And this is the COIW price return. And then we've also got the COIW dividend return and the total return and Coinbase's return. So how many up weeks did Coinbase have? Well, that's easy. We can just do an equals a count if, and we'll ask it to count the number of up weeks for Coinbase that were greater than 0. And we'll close that out. All right. And this was out of how many? Out of 31 weeks, Coinbase had 15 up weeks. Now, how many up weeks did Roundhill have? And we're just going to look at the price return here. So again, it's going to be a count if formula. So ask it to count the Roundhill price return weeks if they were greater than 0. Let's convert that to a number format. 14. Okay, so it had one less up week than Coinbase. And it looks like that week was August 18th to August 22nd. Now, how many down weeks did Coinbase have? Well, it was out of 31, so 15 from 31 is 16. And how many down weeks did Roundhill have? Again, it was out of 31, so 14 from 31 is 17. So Roundhill had one worse week than Coinbase. All right, now what was Coinbase's largest week? To find that, we're going to use the max formula. We'll do equals max and search the Coinbase there, and we'll convert that to percent. So the max price return of Coinbase was 33%, and it looks like it was in May. And we will do the same thing for Roundhill, equals max, and look for the maximum price return there. Returns as 0. I think we need to convert this to percent. 38%. Okay, cool. So we see that one there. Roundhill did 38% in that week, and Coinbase did 33%. And actually, before we go on, let's see if that is actually 120% of the return. So we can quickly divide that 38% by 33%, and let's convert that to a percentage as well. And it was 113%, so not 120%. So, all right, what was Coinbase's worst week? So we're going to do equals and search the Coinbase column. Down 19% there, so it's in the red. And what was Roundhill's worst week? Equals min, and it's going to be the same one, same week, down 24.2% there. So was that 120%? That divide by that and convert that to percentage, and it was 126%. So let's examine what just happened. We saw that in Coinbase's best week, Roundhill did not achieve 120% return, and we saw that in Coinbase's worst week, Roundhill did worse than 120% return there. Okay, so before we move on to these last 4 questions, I want to go over just a few more things. Let's look at the Coinbase dividend return, which, as we know so far, has been 36%. But over the weeks, we've had some pretty good yields just in 1 week. And I'm going to mess with our dates here, but I want to look at the highest week. You got 3% if you invested, and that was actually just this most recent week, 3%, a $1.34 dividend, which was quite good. There was another week with a $1.07 dividend, so 2.5%. And the worst week, you only got 0.58%, which is still a pretty good dividend for just 1 week, so 18 cents per share. So we'll unsort that so the dates go back to the right order. Okay, so now we're going to skip ahead to these last two questions. Then we'll talk more about WPAY. But really, I want to answer, how many weeks did the Roundhill total return beat Coinbase? Because I think it is important to evaluate Roundhill on a total return basis. So we'll do that in this column here, and we'll say equals if the Roundhill total return is greater than the Coinbase return, then display a 1, and if not, display a 0, and then we can easily count, and we'll have it fill that. And remember, this was a total of 31 weeks that we're evaluating. So of the 31, it's telling me that the sum is 14. So 14 times out of the 31, Roundhill had a higher total return than Coinbase. And that is a 14 divided by 31, and that percentage is going to be 45%. So 45% of the time, the total return from Roundhill beat Coinbase. Now, what would be interesting to see is how many times the price return of Roundhill beat Coinbase. So I'm going to just add on some additional questions here on the fly. Okay, so we'll adjust what it's saying here. Price return, and we are going to change that to equals if Roundhill price return is greater than Coinbase return, then display 1, if not, display a 0. And close that out and drag it down. And that's very interesting. Now we only get 8. So 8 times it beat it. The price return beat it. And so 8 divided by 31, let's convert it to percent, is 25%. So only 25% of the time did the price return actually beat Coinbase. So these other questions here that I've highlighted in yellow, what have WPAY's returns been so far? Let's remove all of this and remove that and do all time, convert this to percent. So on a price basis, WPAY is up 4.32%. On an adjusted basis, though, it's up 6.3%. And that's adjusted for dividends, so total return. So we'll say WPAY is 6.37%. Okay, and how many weeks are we evaluating for this Coinbase one? We evaluated 31 weeks. For WPAY, though, we really have only had a few weeks since it's been launched. It's been launched since September. On the surface, I'm not liking what I'm seeing from the COIW ETF, even though the total return is up 15% since inception. So I think what we need is more investigation to see if any of the other underlying holdings are beating their reference asset. I'm thinking of names like the Tesla one, or maybe even the Apple one, probably the Palantir one or the Robinhood one. I think I'll do this on one of those as well. But that's going to be for another video. And if you want to get notified about when that video drops, all you got to do is subscribe. If you don't mind, leave this video a like. Tell me what you enjoyed about it. Or if you didn't like it, leave a comment below. Tell me what you wanted to see, and we can try to put that in a future video. So thanks everyone for watching, and see you in the next one.